Hey guys, it's Steph and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be doing something that's been pretty highly requested recently, and that is my everyday favorite makeup brushes. I get a lot of messages from you guys asking what brushes I use and what I would recommend and things like that. So I thought I would chuck them in one big video. So let's get into it. So the first brush isn't actually a brush, it is of course a blending sponge. As you can see, I have used this one today. This one is from Real Techniques. I also love the original Beauty Blender and I have a few other ones that I do really like as well. I actually have a bunch of different sponges, so let me know if you guys want me to do like a best and worst of Beauty Blender dupes or something like that, because I can definitely do that. I always use these to apply cream products to my face, like foundation, concealer, cream contour, and I also bake with these as well. So I use these all of the time, and if you guys didn't want to get the Beauty Blenders because I know they are more expensive, then the best dupe that I have found is the Real Techniques ones. With that being said, I do often use buffing brushes as well, and again, you can see that I love these guys because they definitely need a wash. So the first one we have here is the Nancy Flawless Foundation Brush. As you can see, it's just a really standard buffing brush. It's completely flat topped, but the brush is actually quite big, so I find it really good if I'm doing my makeup in a rush. This just gives me a really flawless finish. I think I've used probably every single one of my foundations with this brush and it works with all of them. It's super quick and easy to use. I think these brushes are actually quite cheap as well, so I definitely recommend them if you are starting out. And then on to another favorite buffing brush. This is the Sigma 3D HD Kabuki. And as you can see, it's got a bit of a weird shape. I don't even really know how to explain it. It's kind of like a diamond shape almost. Again, same sort of thing as the Nancy one. It's just super easy to use and it works with pretty much every foundation I've used. I like this one a little bit more though, just purely because you have kind of got the pointed areas here. So it's really good for getting under your eye and using products like concealer and stuff like that. So if you guys do want to spend a little bit more money, this is a really good brush. Next up is a brush that I use for concealer quite a lot. I actually have a few of these and a few of them are by different brands, but they all basically do the same thing. So this is for concealer, and to be honest with you guys, I do just either use a sponge or my fingers to apply concealer a lot of the time. When I am using a brush, I will use something like this. This is the Spectrum C06 brush, but Zoeva also do one. I think it's called their concealer buffer, and I use that all the time. You guys always ask me about that. This is just really good for blending out cream products like concealer or even cream contour or something like that. And I also like to use it when I'm applying like an eye base, like a MAC paint pot or something like that. Don't use it all the time because, like I said, I do use my fingers or a sponge, but if I am using brushes, then this is what I'll reach for. Next, I'll move on to the two brushes that I use for powder, so when I'm setting my face and things like that. So for under eyes, I'll use something like this. This is the Zoeva highlight brush, and I use this purely because it fits perfectly under my eyes. The Body Shop also do one. I also really like the Real Techniques setting brush. That's really good and fits nicely under my eyes as well. Because it's a bit more dense than just a regular powder brush, it does just pack a bit more powder under your eyes, so you're not going to crease or anything like that. And I just use this to kind of touch up my powder throughout the day if I want to go quickly over my T-zone or something like that. It's just a nice size, and you can also use this as obviously a highlighting brush as well. I have a small face, so for me it's just a little bit too big, but yeah, for under the eye, this is absolutely perfect. And then for all over the face, again, I'm really not fussy with these sort of brushes. If they're kind of big, if they're fluffy, I'll probably go with them. Like for example, I have this one here from Iconic. This one, it doesn't have a name, but it's one of their newer brushes. I'll use this as well for powder. Just anything kind of big and fluffy I'll go for, but one that I tend to reach for a lot is this one from Real Techniques, and it is their multitask brush. Real Techniques brushes in general are really nice, so again, if you guys were looking for brushes, then definitely recommend checking out Real Techniques because they are all really good. This brush, I don't really need to explain it too much, but I'll literally just pack powder on around my face and maybe just dust over different parts of my face as well throughout the day. Again, just a really good all-rounder powder brush. Next, I'll move on to contouring. Now, I don't use all three of these brushes at once. I'll usually just pick and choose depending on what sort of contour I want. So first of all, we'll start with my old favorite. I definitely need to get a new one of these, I think, because this one has been through the wars. This is Zoeva Cream Cheek Brush. I never use this for cream products. I only ever use this for powder. I find that it just fits into my cheekbones really nicely. I use this all the time. I use it so that the long part is kind of pointing down towards my mouth. I'll just buff it in that way a lot of the time, but you can just buff it upwards as well if you do want a bit more of a natural contour. I have two of these. I will talk about this one in a second, but this one seems a bit more dense. I don't know if they're made out of different things, but this one here, the black one, is a bit more dense for some reason as opposed to this one. So I just like this one for applying contour because it just means I can get a bit more of like a harsh line, but it still blends it out really nicely. Another favorite of mine that I don't like mentioning too much because it is so bloody expensive. I think it's like 40 or 45 pounds or something crazy. It is the NARS Eater brush. This is amazing if you want like a fully chiseled out contour. If you like sort of contouring your jawline. I have quite like a rounded, non-existent jawline, so what I tend to do with this is I'll literally just carve it out like that to create more of a sharp jawline. It is expensive, but to be honest, it is the perfect brush if, again, you do want a really sharp contour. It fits perfectly into my cheekbones. Again, I can contour my nose with it as well. And yeah, I really like this. I do use it quite a lot, but I don't mention it to you guys too much just purely because it is so expensive. But if you do want something like this is awesome. Next up is probably one of my newest favorites. You guys may have seen me use it in a few of my recent videos, and I don't think this has a name, but it's from Iconic London. And first of all, their new brush sets, by the way, are absolutely beautiful. They sent them over and they're also really good quality as well. I haven't used them enough to put them in my favorites as much, but the quality of them is so nice, and I think they're pretty affordable as well. But I can confirm that this guy is indeed a favorite of mine. Is just this massive fan brush. I don't know if you're supposed to use this for highlighter. That would pretty much take up my entire face. For me, I use this for contour. Again, it's kind of the same sort of idea as the NARS Eater brush, but it's a bit more fluffy, so it's not as harsh. I also love this because it is so big. It means you can get a lot of your face in one go. So for example, I'll contour under my cheekbones, 2 seconds, I'm done, dust it over my forehead, dust it under my chin, and you're pretty much done. So it's super quick. But yeah, I've been using this pretty much every single day since I've got it, and I definitely think this could be my new favorite contouring brush. Next, we'll talk about a couple of bronzing brushes. To be honest, I mostly only really use this one these days, but I did want to give a quick shout out to this guy as well because we've had some good times together. So this brush here is the Zoeva Luxe Powder Finish. And to be honest, this is actually a really good all-rounder. I mean, it's a nice size for contouring. Then you can kind of turn it on your side and do a bit of bronzing. Bring it up a little bit higher and you can do a bit of blusher. And then again, turn it on its side again and you can highlight a little bit with it. So it's really good if I am packing very lightly. I do take this one around with me a lot. But recently, all I've been using is this brush from Blank Canvas. So it's super cheap. It is their F42 brush. As you can see, it's quite a fluffy brush, but it does taper out at the end, which is what I really like about this brush. If I just swirl my brush around in the bronzer, you can see that it picks up a lot of the color all over the brush, but mostly on the center. So you're not going to end up with like a full face of bronzer. It is just going to kind of pinpoint it a bit more precisely so you can control it a bit better. I use this for blush as well sometimes if I am just feeling really lazy and I can't be bothered to change brushes. But again, I'll just use like a light hand, dust it on the top of my cheeks, and it just works really well for blush as well. However, another favorite of mine for blush is, like I said, the cream cheek, but this is the bamboo one. I don't really know if there's a difference between this one and the black one, but like I said, this one is a bit more fluffy and I feel like it's a bit bigger than the other one. To be honest, I'm not that fussy when it comes to brushes that apply blush. I'll usually tend to just use whatever I use to apply my bronzer that day, but this one is really good because again, you can just sort of slot it here and it will just apply blush really naturally. You won't have like a big pink splodge right on your cheeks or anything. It does just give you like a nice natural finish. I definitely recommend having at least one of these brushes in your kit because like I said, they do just do kind of a bit of everything. And I'm not gonna lie, there have been times when I've taken just like one of these brushes as well. And what I would do is I would contour, I would bronze, I would blush, and then I clean it off and I take a little bit of highlighter on this point here and do that. So if you guys were looking for one brush that kind of does all of your face powders, this is a good one. Next, we'll talk about my favorite highlighting brush. I get so many questions about the brush that I use for highlighting, and this is it. I have used this for years. I love it so much, and it is of course the Zoeva Luxe Powder Fusion. I have also used the Real Technique setting brush for highlighter in the past, but to be honest, this one is a little bit too dense for me and it's a bit too big as well, so I don't tend to use it as often anymore. So for highlight, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite brush has to be the Fusion brush from Zoeva. It's the perfect size. Again, it's tapered, so you can kind of control where you put your highlighter a little bit more. I do still use fan brushes, but to be honest, I do find them a little bit too flimsy. They are really nice if you want like a light dusting of highlighter, but you guys know me by now, I like something that pops, so I always go with this guy. As you can see, again, it is tapered just like the bronzing brush, so you can kind of control where you put your highlight. I've literally tried so many different brushes for highlighter and this guy always comes out on top. So if you want a really good highlighting brush, this is the one. I'll then quickly touch on the brush that I use for my brows. Now, I only really tend to apply pomade with brushes these days. I'll apply like a tinted brow gel and I'll apply a clear brow gel, but I don't really use powders anymore, but I will leave a link to my favorite brush for powder in the description box down below. But for pomades and gels and things like that, my absolute favorite brush has to be this one from Zoeva. It is their wing liner brush, I believe. Yeah, their 317 wing liner brush. This is really good for wing liner as well, but again, I don't really tend to use liners that need a brush. They normally come with a brush or they have like a wand or something like that already. As you might be able to see, they are super skinny, so really good for applying hair-like strokes, but they're also really good if you want something a bit more heavy. I haven't tried it before, but from what I can see, this does look very similar to the Anastasia angle brush that everyone always goes crazy about, but I believe it is cheaper. So if you guys did want a really good angle brush that you can obviously use for liner as well, then the Zoeva ones are awesome. And then last but not least, I'll move on to some of my favorite eyeshadow brushes. So again, this is for just like my everyday look. It's not like I'm doing a cut crease or anything crazy. So for my everyday look, I absolutely adore fluffy brushes. Like I can do my entire eye look just with fluffy brushes. I've got 3 of my favorites here, but the one that I am using in the cutaway is the Luxe Crease Brush from Zoeva. I have a bunch of these. They're all really nice. Zoeva brushes in general are just so good. But if you guys did want a few other options, then the Body Shop do one, which is really good. I don't know if this one has a name. It doesn't have a name, but it's just their standard fluffy brush. And also NYX do a really good one as well. This is the brush number 32. They all pretty much do exactly the same thing. I'd say the NYX one is a little bit more rough. It doesn't feel rough when you apply it, but just when you sort of feel it. The NYX one is a little bit more rough, and I'd say the Body Shop one is a little bit more dense. My absolute favorite is the Zoeva one, but there's not really too much in it. And then of course you guys know I love to highlight my inner corner. I swear I can't do a makeup look without highlighting my inner corner. So for that I use this brush from Spectrum. It is their A12 brush. It's kind of like a medium-sized rounded pencil brush, so you could obviously smoke out your lower lash line or whatever with this, but I literally reserve this one solely for my inner corner because it fits perfectly in there. I don't have to try too hard. I can just pick up a bit of pigment, place it on the inner corner of my eye, and it works perfectly. You obviously don't need a brush that's just specifically reserved for your inner corner highlight, but I really love this one, so if you guys have something similar, I definitely recommend you try it out. And then last but not least, nothing overly exciting. This is just a pencil brush, again, for my lower lash line. This one here is just from Zoeva, and I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see, but again, they're just really nice and tapered. I find a lot of pencil brushes, like the Spectrum one I just showed you, is quite dense at the end, whereas this one kind of goes into a bit of a point, so you can apply something really lightly, or you can go a bit more ham with it and apply something a bit darker. I also sometimes use this to contour under my lip, and you could also obviously use this for your inner corner highlight as well, or your brow bone highlight. A pencil brush in general is just really good, and the Zoeva ones are some of my favorites. Okay guys, so those are all of my favorite brushes. I hope that was helpful. I feel like it was a bit boring me just sitting talking about brushes for like the past 25 minutes, but you guys asked for it, so hopefully that helped some of you. If you enjoyed this video and if it did help you, then please do give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you do want to see more of me, because I upload all the damn time. But apart from that, that's it from me. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.